Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So today I have a product review for you guys, and it is the Copper Compression Recovery Thumb Brace. So I mentioned recently on my channel that Copper Compression had reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in reviewing some of their products for you guys, and they actually let me choose. So the first thing I chose was one of their thumb splints, just because I've had my recent surgery. I've had a lot of experience now with thumb devices. As most of you know who've been following my channel for a while, I recently had the CMC arthroplasty on my left hand, but that is the surgery that is meant to address end-stage arthritis and is way down here where the thumb meets the wrist. It's a very involved and very painful surgery. Given that everything with the thumb is so fresh in my mind and unfortunately very recent experience, I thought that it would only be fitting for me to review one of their thumb braces. Now, they have another thumb brace that's sort of longer and it doesn't enclose as much of the hand. I wasn't sure which one to choose, but when I looked at the descriptions in both of them, this one had a lot more specificity about what it's meant to address than the other one did, and so I thought I would just start here. Now, some of you have been watching my channel for a while, have seen my videos on my thumb recovery, and know that I have been wearing this brace, which is called the Cool Comfort thumb brace. I'm going to try not to make this too much of a comparison, but it's almost impossible for me not to review a thumb brace without doing somewhat of a comparison with the Cool Comfort. So what I think I'm going to do is very shortly, I'm going to do a full product review on this one as well. Okay, so the Copper Compression Recovery Thumb Brace retails on the Copper Compression website for $17. Now, they do charge $5 shipping and handling, and that's for anything under $50. Once you've spent $50, it is a free ship. Now, it's interesting because Copper Compression does sell this same product on Amazon, and on Amazon it is $15.95, and of course that's a free ship if you have Amazon Prime. There is a third-party seller that's selling what looks like the same device for less, and they're calling it the same thing, but you know, I've talked a little bit about third-party sellers. It takes a lot for me to go that direction. Now, Copper Compression has told me that they are going to provide a coupon code for my viewers. I'm going to link that down in the description box. As of the time of my filming this video, I don't have the code yet, but I will insert it right here as well. And when you use that code on the Copper Compression website, you should end up with a price point that is competitive with Amazon. Now, when I put that link down in the description box, it's simply going to be to take you to the item. I'm not going to have an affiliate link attached here for this. Most of you who know me already know that I don't want the room for bias that a commission would create with something like this. I know that this is some difficult stuff when you have a thumb injury. And when it comes to matters of people's health, safety, and well-being, and we're not talking about something that's just a nicety, I just don't want the commission bias. So the link down in the description box is just going to take you to the product. So the first thing that popped out at me when I was reading the description of this particular splint is that it is ambidextrous. Now, obviously that is a huge plus, not if you need one for each thumb at the same time, but very often people need one and then the other, and this will save a great deal of money if you don't have to buy two of them. So whereas the splint that I've been using so far is made for a right or a left thumb, this one is an ambidextrous, and you can put it on either side. They also offer a detailed description, as I said, in the website of the particular issues that this is meant to address. First of all, they claim that this splint will immobilize the CMC joint, and they say that it offers compression, stability, and wicking, which, by the way, is huge if you're going to wear something like this 24/7, which I had to do for quite some time. It says that it will address sprains, fractures, arthritis, the CMC joint it mentions in particular, and it also says it's for carpal tunnel and more. So out of their two different thumb splints, this just seemed to be the one that was more of the workhorse, where they listed such specific issues that it's meant to address. That said, if anybody has any experience with their other thumb splint, please go ahead and put your experience down, if you will, in the comment section. Now, the splint is made out of copper-infused nylon. Copper does have antimicrobial properties, so in general, for something like this, it's going to cut down on odors. It's not something that's going to be super friendly to the growth of bacteria and fungus, but you can't really expect that this is going to be a profound antimicrobial, something like we see in the Synovia mask or in other technologies that do use copper, where they say that it reduces a viral load by a certain amount in a certain period of time. They're not claiming anything like that, but I just want to clarify it right here on video, because I think very often people see, oh, copper in this and copper in that, and that's going to mean it's profoundly antimicrobial. It doesn't exactly work like that since it has to be a very particular kind of copper compound that would do that. Those tend to be super expensive, so that's not what you tend to find in these sorts of items. In terms of its use and care, it does say that you can machine wash this. I have machine washed this with no problem. I wash it the same way I wash other things like it and like my face masks, and I put them in delicate bags and I put them on a delicate cycle in the wash. I don't really think this needs a huge amount of agitation. I do recommend that you close it up. I find that things like Velcro will pick up like lint or other things in the wash, and then, you know, the item's no good if the Velcro isn't going to be working for you for long. I haven't had a problem with this one, but I've only washed it a handful of times. Now, they also say that you can tumble dry this. I would never tumble dry something like this. I first of all don't see the reason for it. It does dry pretty quickly. You just set aside the time when you can leave it aside. I just think that there's nothing that breaks things down faster than a dryer. It took me a while clicking around to figure out that $50 was the sweet spot for a free ship. First, I tried just adding 2 to the cart and then adding 3 of the items to the cart. And it said something like, well, you've earned free shipping. And when I clicked on that, a description came up that said it's anything over $50. So, you know, I would have preferred if they had something down below on their website, like usually at the bottom of a web page, you see some frequently asked questions, or you see some categories like shipping, returns, and things like that, where you can peruse all that information. They do have an email address to which you can send questions. I do find that they are responsive. They also have a satisfaction guarantee. I have some limited experience with this brand. I wouldn't say a whole lot, but I do remember that I was profoundly impressed with their customer service. Now, some of you might remember back when I was doing a whole lot of mask reviews, I actually reviewed the copper compression face mask. I was a little surprised they reached out to me to review these things because I didn't recommend that face mask. I see it still on their website, but in the end of the day, it was a fantastic feel of a mask, and it had everything it needed except for it did not have a water repellent exterior, and that was just a non-starter for me. It did not meet my criteria. So I did say at the time that I was going to go ahead and return those masks, and when I contacted them, it was just as easy as could be, no questions asked, and they refunded my money fully. So I did remember that customer service experience as exceptional. I wish they'd change that about their masks though. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this on for you. So yeah, it is ambidextrous, and you can see that the smallest of the Velcros is for the thumb. So there's like 2 areas that are open here. The wrist, you slide your wrist in here. Okay, so then that would mean, let's see, I'm going to put it in so you can see it. And then there's this additional hole, and that's where the thumb goes, and it goes against this padding. You can see it's really nicely reinforced here with extra padding. So you pull this on, and now you've got all these different straps to tighten. I would start with the middle one because that's really the one that anchors it to where it's going to go. Make sure that this bottom piece is completely flat. If something feels off, it's often because like this is folded under here and there's a lump. So make sure that's completely flat so that one can overlap the other. From there, I don't really find that it matters that much. I mean, this one is the one that, you know, keeps it secured to the wrist. This is the one that has a little more leverage on it. Obviously, it's really long. You can stretch it a little bit and make it tighter or looser. And then this goes right around the thumb. Now you'll notice it's past the PIP joint, which is where this first bone, this first joint is on the thumb. And this actually anchors right past that. So you'll see that when I tighten this up, I can still move the PIP joint really nicely. And most splints for things like a CMC joint injury in particular are designed to do that. So it is supposed to immobilize the CMC joint and leave the PIP joint mobile. And it in fact does. I mean, I can try to move my whole CMC joint. I probably can't even move it as much as I could that tiny little bit in a cast. This one is really immobilized. And I do like on this one the way that this comes down below the PIP joint. I know that again, I wasn't going to try to compare too much, but one of the things that I was dealing with the Cool Comfort is that, well, this is a left-sided brace. I'm just going to put it on my right to show you. I had to cut some of this. It's getting a little raggedy because early post-operative days when I had a lot of swelling still, it would collect here at the tip of my thumb. But you can see where this really covered the PIP joint. Now, even though it's not rigid and you could still move it, I mean, this neoprene, sometimes it gets achy to move against that a little bit. And I have found that the Cool Comfort, as much as it's designed so that it doesn't have any stiff parts of it, and it doesn't have any metal rods or anything like that. It does in turn have thick neoprene, and it has some thick seams. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, in my opinion. Now this one does have these two, you'll see boning. Now, because it's ambidextrous, you have one line here and one line here. So in this case, it's really this one that's working to immobilize my thumb. If I put it on the opposite hand, it's really going to be this one that's at the spine of the thumb. But either way, this is a rigid section. I'm trying to see if I can give you a good view of it. It's underneath that sort of velvety stripe, you see. That is a rigid section, and same thing over here. That is a rigid section. It's probably like an aluminum insert that goes in there. Now, one thing I think might have been better when they designed this is if there was a way to pull that out. I know that some hand surgeons like for their patients too, when they buy any kind of, off-the-shelf brace for any injury, they like them to pull out those rigid strips. They just feel it causes a little too much strain. In this case, you cannot do that. With this particular brace, you cannot remove those strips, and I don't think you can with their other thumb brace either, at least if their description holds. So I do think it would have been a little bit better, because in order to do that, all they have to do is make a little hole with a flap that goes over it on the inside so that you can kind of push it out through that flap. And I think it just would have been in the plus column. Now, that said, I was very surprised that it did not bother me. Like, there are braces that I've worn where that piece is removable, and I'll wear it for a while and think, why is this aching? And then I realized, oh, I forgot to take that metal boning out of it. I did not have that with this, and really I fully expected to. So whatever they're using there, it's either really perfectly shaped for me, or it's just not too rigid. Perhaps it's a finer gauge metal than you would typically find in a place like this. Whatever the reason, I really don't find it bothersome. I am going to loosen this up and just give you another view that you can see. Here's the neoprene. This is just a really breathable fabric. Obviously, you've got some of these strips here because that's meant for the Velcro. Same thing right here, that's meant for the Velcro to attach to. Now, on the inside of the device, you have a very smooth fabric. It's wicking. I've never built up a sweat in here, even in July. Like, there's nothing I can do right now but try to stay cool and indoors. It's sweltering hot. You do have a couple of spots where it is hard. Now, this is one of those rigid sticks, probably aluminum. Same thing right here. So this is where normally, if it were removable, you would see like a little flap where you could just lift that and slide that thing out. The inside of this is so smooth it almost feels like swimming suit material, but it's moisture wicking. I made sure to wear this for a while, like several days. Then I washed it, and then I wore it some more. Then I washed it again, wore it some more, so that I could really flush out any of the problems with it. And I can honestly say, not only did I not find problems besides this, even though I said it's not bothering me, I still think it would be better to make these pieces removable. But I found myself reaching for this more than my Cool Comfort, which is the one that my surgeon gave me when I started. So this thing is actually larger, longer. It kind of covers more. And it's not perfectly soft like that Cool Comfort, given that it has some structure. And it also has like 3 of these different things to fasten instead of just one little thing to fasten. But I find that I can get a more custom fit that way, and I really have found myself reaching for this one most of the time over the other. Now, I did worry that maybe I wasn't going to be able to do things like drive, because the thumb is kind of set a little further away from the rest of my hand with this than it is with the brace that I've been used to, but I have been able to drive with this just fine, if not better. And yeah, I just totally prefer this one all the way around. So what else can I tell you besides that this has now become my favorite after months of wearing a thumb brace? I know that when you have a surgery like I did, or when you have a particular injury, typically when you go to a hand specialist, they have one particular item that they like. Very often it's an item that they're selling, by the way. They're not really going to keep up with every single new device that comes out on the market every day, especially with these sort of off the shelf. These aren't like custom made braces and things like that. So, I did question it at first, like, should I use something other than the one that my surgeon gave me? But the truth is, these are all off the shelf products. And after trying it and using it for a while, there's no doubt in my mind that it was doing the same job that my other one was doing, although in most ways better. Now, it could be that I was just so sick of that one. Like when you've gone through weeks or months after an injury and you have the same seam touching the same place for like weeks or months at a time, it could be that just changing up what you're using is going to offer some relief. But I think there might be a little bit of that at play, but for the most part, I do think that this is more comfortably holding everything exactly where it should be. I think that it doesn't try to do everything with like just one Velcro adjustment. I think the fact that it has an adjustment here, an adjustment here, and an adjustment here allows for a much more custom fit than the one that I've been using up until now. And given that the CMC joint is completely immobilized while my PIP joint is completely open, is just a huge plus in my opinion. So for those of you who, if you've been wearing one of these for after the same surgery I had in particular, and you're finding you have any of these particular problems, please let me know what they are. And if you decide to try this, let me know how you like it. So yeah, I really want to give a shout out and a thank you to the people at Copper Compression for giving me the opportunity to try their device. I certainly wasn't on the market for any more thumb apparatus, but I'm so glad I tried it because it's just so quickly become my favorite. And the only other thing I can say is even if you're on the fence, I kind of hope you'll try it, because I know that my experience with Copper Compression is that they do stand by their guarantee. If you're not happy with it, you can return it. I've had no problem with that in the past. So yeah, let me know what you think about it and if this was helpful. And until next time, be well. Bye-bye.